Morning. Let's talk about the Israel relief bill, also known as the COVID-19 relief. Listen, I'm not anti-Israel. I'm not pro-Palestine. I do, however, recognize a totally ridiculous situation when I see one. You ever ask yourself, all this foreign aid we give to Israel, what do we get out of it? What do they do for us? You know, what's our position there? We're trying to create peace in the Middle East, and we use Israel as our conduit to do that. I understand that. But, you know, all these little foreign aid deals packed into this COVID, if you really look at it, most of it is to help Israel pursue its interests internationally. Israel is a parasite that feeds off the United States and feeds China. You understand? China doesn't have the, because of its communist regime, they don't have the ingenuity. Their schools suck, so their people aren't that bright. No EPA regulation. You can't breathe the air in China. People are going to the bathroom in the street. So they need the ingenuity of the United States. So Israel blackmails United States politicians and corporations, mainly with sexual, specifically pedophilia, blackmails leaders in the United States, steals our secrets, feeds them to China and itself. That's all a lot of this stuff is in this COVID relief bill. It's just absurd. Almost $1 trillion, the American people get $600. And not all the American people. Who should really be pissed off about this is the higher earners, the ones that are not going to qualify to get their $600 measly check. Those are the people that should be pissed off. The high earners that are paying into all this to the Treasury to create this stimulus money that goes internationally, and they don't get a penny from it. At least give them $600. So, and then we get to, you've seen it. You've seen where all this money's gone. Sudan, Asia, Bangladesh, you name a country, and they're getting money out of this COVID relief bill. And the problem is, everybody gets all bent out of shape because we sell arms to Saudi Arabia. Well, the issue is if we don't, Saudi Arabia is going to buy their arms from Russia. And that money's going to go back into the Russian economy. Now, we get that money back into our economy. So what we really need with this Saudi arms situation is an arms embargo with the United States and Russia. Problem is that's never going to happen because somebody wants the money. So when we get to the domestic nonsense with this COVID relief bill, the Smithsonian gets $1 billion. Ask yourself, what is the Smithsonian doing with $1 billion? I've been to the Smithsonian. It's a beautiful museum, but here's the deal. It's not even open right now, right? And if it is, it's in a limited capacity. But there's no way that building alone is $1 billion. You could build an entire new Smithsonian for $1 billion. And Trump touched on this a long time ago when he talked about, he was at a rally and he actually pointed a guy out in the crowd and he asked the guy, well, what do you do for work? And the guy goes, I'm a fence builder. I build fences. The guy goes, oh, we could probably use your help because when I got to Washington, they were proposing a new fence around the White House. And I don't remember how much. Let's just say the fence is going to cost $25 million. And Trump looks at it and goes, $25 million for a fence? He goes, that's a $500,000 fence, max. Trump knows all this because of his construction background. Common sense to tell you that. Anybody knows that. So the guy goes, yeah, we could do it for that. So, Trump just points out this ridiculous spending of the federal government. Another example is Air Force One. He bought two new Air Force Ones, and he was negotiating with Boeing to buy them. Now, Air Force One has got all the advanced technology in the world, right? Anything you could think of, stuff we don't even know about. But I would have never dreamed that it had a price tag anywhere near $500 billion. I wouldn't even have thought $1 billion for one airplane. So he negotiated that back down to $3.5 billion or something. Still a ridiculous amount of money for one airplane. And they buy two of them. So everybody's all up in arms about this COVID relief bill, and they should be. Here's the deal, though. People know about it now. It's always been like this. It has always been the United States government, specifically Congress, but this newer Congress, the 116th or whatever it is, 106th, they're by far the worst. It's like they're all corrupt. Like they're all bought and paid for. Look at the people who signed this thing. Josh Hawley signed this thing. You know? One of the most conservative, outspoken conservative voices in Congress signed this thing. Now there's a few that didn't, you know, Ted Cruz and Tulsi Gabbard. Look at AOC. She was crying all day long about how crazy this relief bill is, and she didn't get time to read it, but then she finally got into it and realized she was getting a raise, so she signed it. They're all corrupt. If every American citizen stopped paying their taxes, they just don't even file a tax return, or convince these big corporations not to take taxes out of paychecks, it would all stop. You could dissolve the federal government in a week if they weren't getting the money from the American people. The problem is you can't unite. They've teamed up with big tech to make sure that you could not unite with other people. They censor you if you get too big. Look at these Trump-friendly, like, Facebook groups. Stop the Steal. When that Stop the Steal Facebook group started getting real big, what do? They just delete it. No rhyme, no reason. And you would hope that the free market could come up with a solution to that. And the problem is these, with this 230 protection that these tech companies have gotten, it's paved the way for them to get so big and powerful that you cannot compete with them. They have a total monopoly on the industry. And when you see guys like Dan Bongino, who tried to create an alternative to Twitter, he can't get behind this eliminating 230 because he needs it. You know, so it's like he's really caught between a rock and a hard place with this 230 because he needs it for Rumble and Parler. It's just a total mess. Do not support the federal government anymore. I'm telling you what, if Trump signs this bill, unless he can get this thing to wherever person gets $2,000 or whatever, what he's trying to do, which I don't think is going to happen. If he signs that bill, I don't know, I'd really have to question what Trump's got going on here. Maybe he would just sign it on the way out, saying, well, I don't care anymore, let's just get the people some money. But I saw some information that there's a part in that bill where it amends the Insurrection Act and Trump's ability to use it. I don't know if that's true or not. I saw it on a tweet, and it looked like a screenshot of the bill. It's hard to verify that stuff, but what we need in Congress and what we need for the president is we need him or her, or whoever the president is, to have the ability to line item veto these bills. That way, when you get a bill that's 5,000 something pages long, you can go through it and go, yes, no, get rid of this, keep that, get rid of this, keep that. Because Congress has proven that they will spend without regard for you, for me, for our future. We're $24 trillion in national debt, and we're spending $1 trillion and sending $1 billion to the Smithsonian Museum. Like, what are we doing? We talked about it yesterday. Could you imagine if you ran your personal budget like this, or your business account? You know, if your income's $10,000 a month and you spend 20, you'd be homeless. The federal government should be homeless based on their, you know, spending history. But they keep getting away with it, and they're so big and they're so powerful, and we've allowed them to get they're the biggest employer in the country, the federal government. total antithesis of the way the founding fathers structured this country. It's supposed to be a tiny federal government to protect the borders and make sure the states are acknowledging and protecting the rights of the people within those states. That's all it was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be so we could send $1 billion to Sudan, or $500 million to Israel on top of the $5 billion we give them every year. For what? What do we get from Israel? Nothing. They cheat, they lie, they take total advantage of the United States. They're a parasite. Don't take this as a pro-Palestinian perspective. That it's not. Don't be a light switch brain. This is a common sense perspective that Israel's a parasite that's been eating off the United States. This has nothing to do with the people of Israel. It's the government. It's always the states, the government that's the problem. It's never the people of these countries. It's not the Chinese people in China that are the problem. It's the communist regime that doesn't allow their people to have freedom and have free market where they can provide for themselves and their family and prosper. Big problem in this country, big problem in the world. It's only going to lead to a global authoritarian regime. That's all this is. They're just exerting their political will, and the people can do nothing about it. Listen, I'm going to DC on January 6th to support Trump, but you know what? It's not going to mean anything. It's not going to matter. It's not going to do anything. If I can't get into Congress and speak with a legislative assistant, I'm wasting my time. So I'm going to try. We'll see what happens. Y'all have a good day. Go look at that COVID relief bill. You should pull your hair out over it, but just remember, this is nothing new. This is what happens every time. We bail out everybody every time. Nike got, $50 million or something. So Nike goes and donates who knows how much money to Black Lives Matter and Act Blue, which basically finances the Democrat Party. And the federal government turns around and gives it right back to them. Total corruption. Go look at the bill. They're raping us. They're financially raping the people of the United States. The people of the United States drive the financial engine of the world. We're the most prosperous nation. We make the most money, and we give the most money away. It's time for us to seclude ourselves from the rest of the world for a little while, get our stuff straight here, fix the problems we have in this country, allow people to prosper. You don't need the government to pay for free education if the people aren't paying, 10 or 15 or 20, maybe more percent of their income to the federal government. If you allow the American people to do that, they can pay for their own kids' education. You don't need the government to do it. You just need the government to get out of your way. That's it for today, guys. Y'all have a good one.